shir is dedicated to Nishras Chaim Tzvi. In the last year we discussed some of the conceptual underpinnings of Meleches Tofer, and what I want to do is just in the next 20-25 minutes probably be able to finish up the Halach L'Maisa applications of the Malacha, and then although we discussed a little bit of Korei'a in the past, I think in the context of Tofer it's very kedai to more methodically go through the Malacha of Korei'a, and we'll start to introduce that as well. So we pointed out that the Malacha of Tofer requires Shtei Tfiros, and the Gemara indicates that Shtei Tfiros is not itself enough. You also have to go ahead and Busha Kashran to make it Shel Kayam, and we saw major machlokes Harishonim if really you need a real bona fide, the reason for the kesher is simply because it's going to literally undo momentarily if you don't have the kesher, but really Tofer does not require shel kayim, it does not require any bona fide kiyum, or no, really Tofer does require kiyum just like other malachos, just like kosher does, and when it comes to kosher, you need a kesher shel kayim, tefira also needs a tefira shel kayim. This would seem to be the shita of Rambam, and certainly is a shita of some Rishonim. Other Rishonim indicated no, tefira does not have this din of Kayama. We also saw the Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam himself, who tells us that when it comes to, you have a very, very important tolda of Tofer, and that is the issue of gluing. Pedabik niyaros, the kolon shel svarim, if you go ahead and stick and glue papers into svarim, so that's going to be a tolda of Meleches kosher, of Tofer. And really this is important because when you think about it, we have a number of different malachos which I'll call the chibur malachos that involve taking disparate items and binding them together, putting them together. And the question is, sometimes it's not so clear what's the difference between these various malachos, what distinguishes one from the other. For example, bona is a malacha that's involved when you take chibur chalakim, dibuk chalakim, you take separate items and you bind them together to create a certain structure. That's the malacha of bona. The malacha, and just like you have malacha of bona, putting it together, when you take it apart, soter is also a malacha. Another malacha that's in this category is the malacha of kosher. When you go ahead and tie things, you tie them together via a knot. That's the malacha of kosher. When you undo it, that's also malacha. That's malacha's matir. Tofer is similar. Tofer also is a binding malacha where you take two items and put them together via a tefira, a tofer, and that again, there's an undoing of that. The malach of Korei'a undoes that, and it's interesting that you have a series of malachos that I would call the malachos of chibur that are involved in this process. And again, it's worth asking the question, for example, what exactly is the difference, la halacha, between kosher and tofer? Yeah, one involves a knot and one involves stitching, but if it's all about chibur, what exactly is the difference? So Moshe Feinstein, one of the tshuvas, suggests that the difference is when it comes to the malacha of kosher. So kosher, again, the medium of bringing the two items together is a knot, and it's not necessarily purely about bringing those two items together. It's about making the knot. When it comes to tofer means you have two separate items, and there's a third intermediary vehicle that binds them together. And the way it's bound together, unlike a knot, is it's bound together into a single unified whole. That's what Tofer does. Takes the two disparate items and through the medium of a third item makes those from two separate disparate items into a unified whole. When you go ahead and tie things together with a knot, let's say for example, I tie a chair to a door, and so when I open the door, the chair will slide. So that doesn't make the chair and the door into a unified whole. It doesn't create a single unit. It's still a chair and a door that are now tied together, but it's not like they became one. In contrast, Moshe indicates that when it comes to the malacha of Tofer, when it comes to the malach of Tofer, so what emerges is with a thread, by sewing these two things together, they become one. Similarly, glue does that as well. When I go ahead and glue them together, glue two items together, they become a unified whole, and that's the malacha. Stapling does the same thing, and that's why it requires a kriya to go ahead and separate them one from the other. This is what the malacha generates, and therefore when it comes to gluing things together will put us into the world of will put us into the world of Tofer, no doubt, for sure. Lahalacha, you find the Shmir Shabbos Kolchasa deals with a number of relatively common Tofer cases. We'll take a look at a few. Okay, so Perek Chav Ches Halacha Gimel. Daf shel sefer shenekra shelo b'makom ha'osio, so afilu b'makom ha'osio, sim ein lo sefer acher kazeh nogim lahakel lahaniach es hachalakim zeh b'zeh kedei likro es hakosav, aval also lachaber chelkei daf ele b'niyar devek. You have a book, and there's a tear out from the book, one of the pages torn out. So to place it next to, place it in place, so now you can read that page. So that he says, if you have no other book instead, you can do that, even though it might have a problem of